to fewer physicians practicing medicine in primary care. And it has done so because the government, under those two bills, mandates what I can charge for every service that I provide. If I have increased expenses, I can't charge more to cover those expenses. So I'm confronted with a dilemma. Either I take a loss and don't earn any money, I fire a bunch of my staff, or I go out of business. A lot of physicians have dropped out of Medicare and will not see Medicare patients. Even geriatricians I know are doing that. Medicare has become the single biggest obstacle to optimal care in this country as far as I'm concerned. And while I know it has worked for many of you, and many people over the age of 65 say, I have Medicare, it's really great. And that is the same mentality that we're using to try to pass H.R. 3962, the bill that the House just passed related to health care reform. And it is somebody else is going to pay for everything. It's going to cost a lot of money, put our country in deep debt. But those people who are going to get the benefit, what really amounts to about 4% of people in the country who can't afford it right now, the 12 million people that are uninsured that probably could use some benefit from the government, we're going to put our country into $1 trillion+ of debt beyond the other trillions we've already done up to this point this year, so that we can cover that 4% of the population. This is insane, because it is not going to accomplish what we want. Even if the government is saying, oh, it's okay, we're going to be paying for the health care. If you don't have any physicians to provide care, doesn't matter whether anybody's paying for it or not. And right now, it is driving physicians out of practice. We cannot see an increase in primary care, and the superficial provisions in H.R. 3962 to attract primary care, I can assure you, are not going to accomplish that. Right now, if you look at how many people are being seen in a physician's office, the number has changed drastically. In 1984, we were seeing about 13 patients in a day. On average, right now, we are seeing more than double that number. Despite that, in the last 18 years, earnings for physicians have gone down 40%. Unless there is a drastic change, in the next 4 years, those earnings will go down another 40% in just the next 4 years. Docs are not going to stay in primary care. They will gravitate to the procedure-oriented specialties. They will gravitate to things that are not covered by Medicare. You'll note that the plastic surgeons all aren't going out of business. It is of paramount importance that we recognize the service that primary care providers want to provide for you. I love seeing patients. It has become very difficult for me to do that, to the point that I have cut back on my ambulatory care practice because I can't sustain the overhead that's required to run the practice. Right now, because of the government regulations, because of the government mandates, and because of the complexity of the billing process, I know of no physician offices that don't have to hire at least one full FTE, one whole individual, just to handle the billing, and one full FTE, making it 2 people now, to handle the regulatory requirements of the practice and the small business concept. The mandates for health care that we're talking about that will go to small businesses will put a lot of physicians out of business in and of themselves. I spend much more time with paperwork now than I ever did, which means I spend less time with patient care. We need to think, why is it that we're trying to change this system? And I will tell you, the system needs to be changed. But the goal is to insure those people who are uninsured. This bill still leaves 4% of the population uninsured. It doesn't accomplish the task, and it does it at a tremendous cost, one that is unsustainable. Recent numbers tell us that it's actually much greater than what the House has told us it would be. The other thing I want to talk about in this is if we take a look at the uninsured and we recognize that that's not going to be accomplished, we have to understand, why are they moving forward with this? And again, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And I will prove to you in two simple examples that some of the major politicians pushing this are being, I used to use the term, either naive or disingenuous. I think it actually right now is so obvious that another term ought to be used. I think they are being straight dishonest. The President of the United States, after meeting with the AMA, and some of you may say, doesn't the AMA support this? I talked with the President of the AMA, and when I did, he said, we support the bill, we don't endorse it. So, the President of the AMA basically says, by supporting the bill, we support some principles in the bill and we get a place at the table. And I said to him, next time say, we can't support it in its present form. You'll get a lot more attention and more likely to get what you want in the next bill. The AMA has a vested interest in this. Right now, the AMA only gets 15% of their revenues from membership dues. They make millions of dollars off the federal government because they have the responsibility of handling the procedure coding that everybody uses for every procedure, and there are thousands of them, that anybody in medicine performs. The AMA has a contract with the government for the bulk of the revenues that they generate. They don't want to risk that. They don't want the process to be simpler. They don't want it to be a lot less costly. They have a vested interest in what they've got going right now. It's a pretty sweet deal, let me tell you. The membership is pretty unhappy about it all. And they're depending right now on a deal that they have made, and they've made no bones about this, that the sustained growth rate cuts of 20+% that are scheduled for January of next year will be eliminated. That's what the House is trying to vote on now. That's H.R. 3961. If that doesn't pass, the AMA is going to look like a bunch of fools, let me tell you. And physicians are really going to be in some dire straits. But that shouldn't be the issue. We shouldn't have the government telling us what we can charge for the services that we charge. We shouldn't have the government putting such regulations on insurance. After Obama met with the AMA, he came out and said, we've really got to do something about costs. Because an amputation right now, it's costing $30,000 to $50,000.